What really happened inside that tiny Florida home the night Michelle O'Connell's scream cut through the Christmas air? And why did the scene look nothing like the story told about it? Michelle was found on the bedroom floor, a single light glowing on the nightstand like it refused to go out. Her phone lay just inches from her hand. Screen cracked, one final outgoing message never fully sent. And standing in the doorway was the man who insisted it was all instant, unavoidable, and over. Her family didn't just lose her. They lost the truth, buried under someone else's version of her final moments. Michelle's Christmas evening should have ended in laughter, not in silence that swallowed the entire house. Hours earlier, she had held her niece, telling her, "Next year will be different, I promise." But now that promise sits like a ghost because everything that followed felt rushed, rehearsed, and too convenient to accept. The first officer on scene, Brian Keller, froze the moment he stepped inside. The room felt staged, too clean, too arranged, too explained. But he didn't say it out loud. Not yet. Meanwhile, Michelle's sister, Megan, arrived trembling, begging to see her. She wasn't allowed. And that was the first red flag. Because when a family can't see the person they just lost, it's usually not about procedure. It's about protecting a narrative. Main suspect, Sean Porter. Scene note, phone found broken. But one detail didn't add up. Megan kept repeating one question that stuck in every investigator's mind later. Why does the story keep changing? Because the man inside that room, Deputy Sean Porter, told 3 different versions before sunrise. And each one cracked open a deeper, darker possibility. What if Michelle's final moments weren't a tragic accident, but a truth someone desperately needed to bury? Before the sun rose on December 25th, one tiny detail surfaced. A detail that would shatter the entire official explanation. And once that piece came out, nothing about Michelle's death would ever feel accidental again. If Michelle truly died exactly the way Sean described, why did the injury on her body point in the opposite direction of his story? The medical examiner paused when he saw the angle. It wasn't lining up. The mark on Michelle's jaw told a different version of her final seconds. And that difference wasn't small. It was the kind that flips a case upside down. Her body was telling the truth long before anyone else was willing to listen. By morning, the O'Connell family waited outside the sheriff's office, exhausted and shaking. Thomas, her father, kept whispering, "Something isn't right. She wouldn't go like that." But no one on the inside seemed in any rush to explain the inconsistencies. Injury doesn't match story. When Detective Lucas Merritt reviewed the scene photos, one detail pulled him forward like a hook. Michelle's jaw wasn't bruised from a fall. It wasn't bruised from recoil. It was bruised from impact, an impact someone else caused. This was the moment Lucas realized. The timeline didn't just feel off, it was off. And the one person who had been alone with her, the only eyewitness, was also a law enforcement officer with immediate access to control the narrative. Timeline conflict. Scene alteration possible? Later that day, Megan begged the department to release Michelle's belongings. They refused. Then they delayed. Then they changed the reason again. Every answer they gave felt like a door closing. But Lucas discovered something hidden in the early scene notes, something no one outside the department was supposed to see. A tiny inconsistency with Sean Porter's first statement. That would set the entire case on fire. And once that detail came out, the question wasn't whether something happened to Michelle. It was who in the department already knew. Why did Sean Porter describe Michelle's final moments in past tense? Before anyone officially confirmed she was gone. Detective Lucas Merritt read Sean's first statement twice, then a third time. One sentence kept pulling at him like a thread ready to split the whole night open. Sean talked about Michelle as if he already knew the outcome. Minutes before responders even checked her pulse. Sometimes the truth leaks out not through evidence but through the words people shouldn't have used yet. Lucas sat alone in a dim office, the Christmas lights outside blinking in sharp contrast to the cold unease rising in his chest. Sean's timeline was collapsing in on itself. Sean claimed he found Michelle, and she was already gone. But Officer Brian Keller's report showed something different. Sean stepped outside, frantic, yet never mentioned checking her properly, never mentioned calling for help immediately. It was as if he'd accepted the outcome too quickly, or knew it before anyone else did. On-screen captions. Past tense error. Why speak as if you already knew? Michelle's mother, Sarah, tried to hold herself together as she heard fragments of the timeline. I don't understand, she whispered. If he loved her, why didn't he try? Her voice cracked. Lucas didn't have an answer, not one that would make sense. That afternoon, Megan met with Lucas privately. She slid her phone across the table. A message Michelle had sent just hours before she died. I'm scared of how tonight might go. Not dramatic, not exaggerated. Just a quiet, trembling fear from a woman trying to navigate her way out of a relationship that felt increasingly unsafe. Final message found. Lucas stared at the message, then at Megan, then back at the timeline that now had a hole big enough to swallow the entire accident explanation. But the real trouble started when Lucas checked the dispatch logs and found a missing call entry, a gap in the recording, a blank space that should not exist, a blank space that raised one chilling possibility. Someone didn't just mishandle the case. Someone may have helped shape it. Why was there a silent 3-minute gap in the dispatch log? Right at the moment Michelle O'Connell was supposed to be fighting for her life. Detective Lucas Merritt leaned closer to the screen, scrolling back and forth in disbelief. Every call that night had a timestamp, clean, continuous, except one. Michelle's emergency window was blank, as if someone lifted that piece of time straight out of the system. Time doesn't disappear on its own, but the truth often does. Lucas requested a second review of the logs. Same result. 3 minutes missing. 3 minutes that could explain everything, or expose everyone. 3-minute void, critical moment missing. Officer Brian Keller, the first responder, looked shaken when Lucas quietly approached him outside the station. He lowered his voice. Lucas, I heard yelling when I pulled up, but the official report says the house was quiet. I didn't write that. Lucas's breath tightened. Reports don't rewrite themselves. People do. Inside the O'Connell home, the family was sifting through their grief like it was quicksand. Sarah sat on the couch clutching Michelle's favorite sweater, whispering, she asked me to come over that night. I told her I'd see her in the morning. Her guilt wasn't loud. It was the soft kind that breaks you. Megan, pacing, replayed the final text Michelle sent. I think he's angry again. Not a cry for help. A quiet warning. Contradicting reports. Yelling heard at scene. Back at the station, Lucas compared statements side by side. Sean Porter claimed he had no idea what happened, and everything was calm before the incident. But Keller's version and the neighbors told the opposite story. Sean said he tried to revive her, but the medical examiner reported minimal physical evidence of an attempt. Bit by bit, the official narrative was fraying, and the gap in the timeline wasn't just a mistake. It felt like a door someone slammed shut. As Lucas prepared to dig deeper, an anonymous envelope was slipped under his office door. Inside was a single printed message. Check who handled the logs. One name was circled, and when Lucas saw it, his entire body went cold. Why was the same officer who once disciplined Sean Porter for aggressive conduct suddenly the one controlling Michelle's dispatch logs? Detective Lucas Merritt unfolded the anonymous note again, tracing the circled name. It belonged to someone who should have had no role in Michelle's case. And the moment Lucas realized who it was, his stomach dropped. The cover-up didn't start with evidence, it started with access. The name circled in the envelope was Sergeant Peter Walsh, a man known for protecting his own and burying internal conflicts before they ever reached daylight. And years earlier, he had reprimanded Sean for explosive behavior off-duty. Now he was suddenly in charge of the most sensitive timestamp in the case. Lucas didn't buy it. Not for a second. Why was Walsh on the logs? Lucas checked the department system. All log modifications were traced back to Walsh's badge number. Not once. Not twice. 5 times. All within the first hour after Michelle's death. That wasn't procedure. It was intervention. Meanwhile, Megan drove to Michelle's workplace, searching for something, anything, that might explain her sister's fear in the final weeks. A coworker, Ava Reynolds, hesitated before speaking. She told me she wanted to leave him after the holidays, Ava whispered. She said things were getting unpredictable. The word unpredictable hung in the air like a warning. Michelle didn't live long enough to escape. Wanted to leave relationship. Escalation before Christmas. That same night, Lucas visited the O'Connell home, where Thomas sat quietly at the kitchen table. He pushed a folded paper toward Lucas. Michelle wrote this the night before Christmas Eve, he said softly. A small note. No drama. No accusations. Just one sentence that would cut straight through every official version of events. I don't feel safe here anymore. Lucas exhaled slowly. The picture was forming, and it was darker than anything he expected. He returned to the station after midnight, standing alone in the flickering fluorescent light. He opened the dispatch system again. This time he zoomed in on the precise moment the logs went missing. 3 minutes. Deleted by someone who knew exactly what those 3 minutes contained. Just as Lucas noted the final timestamp, his monitor flashed. A new internal alert. Someone else had accessed Michelle's file. Tonight. Right now. And the user ID belonged to someone with a direct link to Sean Porter. If Michelle's case was handled by the book, then why was someone inside the department trying to delete her file, while Lucas was staring right at it? The screen glitched, lines flickering as the access alert repeated. Someone was inside Michelle's records at the exact same moment Lucas was. And the user ID belonged to a name he never expected to see again. You don't try to erase a file unless the truth inside it is dangerous. Lucas's eyes locked onto the username, Porter_assist. Not Sean, but someone assigned to him, someone who shouldn't be anywhere near this case now. The timing wasn't a coincidence, it was a message. Unauthorized access detected. He pulled the log history. Multiple attempts over several days. Late at night. Always after the building emptied. Always targeting the same folder. Scene photos, bedroom. Why these specific images? Why delete them now? Lucas clicked to open the folder. Half the photos were missing. The remaining ones were blurred, mislabeled, or completely out of order. That wasn't a system error. It was deliberate. Back at the O'Connell home, Megan received a call from a neighbor, Tyler Morgan. He hesitated before speaking. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but I heard something that night. Megan steadied her voice. What did you hear? Tyler swallowed. A woman shouting, Stop! Then something heavy hitting the floor. His statement clashed with everything Sean claimed, and perfectly aligned with the injury on Michelle's jaw. Neighbor heard shouting. Impact sound reported. Meanwhile, Sarah stood in Michelle's empty room, noticing something the investigators never logged. Michelle's Christmas gifts were still neatly arranged on the bed, untouched. One was addressed to herself with a small tag. A new start. Lucas arrived moments later. Sarah showed him the tag, her voice trembling. She was planning a future. You don't buy yourself a new start if you're planning to end anything. Lucas didn't respond. The truth was already forming inside him like a bruise. When he returned to the station, the unauthorized user was gone. But they left something behind. A deleted file partially recovered itself. A single image loaded slowly, grainy at first, then clear enough to see. Michelle's right hand was open, not clenched. The detail mattered because Sean claimed she pulled a trigger. But an open hand told another story. A chilling one. Lucas pushed his chair back, heart pounding. If Michelle hadn't fired the gun, someone else had. And the one person with gunshot residue that night had yet to explain why it was on both hands. If Michelle never touched the trigger, then who pulled it? And why did the department fight so hard to hide the answer? Detective Lucas Merritt stared at the recovered photo, the open hand frozen in time. The truth wasn't whispering anymore. It was standing in plain sight. Justice doesn't always arrive fast, but it never stops knocking. Lucas reopened every piece of evidence with fresh eyes. One detail had stayed quiet too long. Sean Porter had gunshot residue on both hands. Not from a defensive gesture. Not from comforting Michelle. but from firing a weapon. GSR. Both hands. He pulled the official report and found something infuriating. The notation about residue had been downplayed, tucked into a footnote. Not investigated. Not questioned. Just minimized. But the science didn't lie. The hand that fires the weapon shows the heaviest concentration. Sean's right hand was coated. His left wasn't clean either. This wasn't Michelle's doing. This wasn't self-inflicted. This was force. Direct. Close. Intentional. While Lucas prepared the final report, Sarah O'Connell stood at her daughter's grave. She placed a small Christmas flower on the snow, whispering, "They can lie on paper, but they can't lie to God." Her grief had turned into something unbreakable, purpose. Megan joined her, holding the recovered image Lucas had shown them privately. Michelle's open hand. The detail that destroyed the department's entire narrative. Megan wiped a tear. She didn't give up. Someone took her choice away. Truth emerging. Lucas submitted everything to an outside review unit. Every alteration, every timeline shift, every missing minute tied to Sergeant Peter Walsh. And he added a final note. Michelle O'Connell did not end her life. She lost it. It was the first official acknowledgement of what the family had known all along. 2 months later, under public pressure and independent scrutiny, the case reopened. Sean Porter was removed from duty. Walsh was placed under investigation for evidence manipulation. And Michelle's death was reclassified. Case reopened. Official review ordered. For the first time since Christmas 2010. The truth had a voice. In the final meeting with the family, Lucas stood quietly as the new panel explained the decision. Reinvestigation, external oversight, transparency, real accountability. Sarah pressed her hand over her heart. Megan closed her eyes. A weight lifted. Justice didn't erase their loss, but it finally honored Michelle's life. Sometimes injustice buries a story, but persistence digs it back out and shines a light no one can turn off again. Sparkles 4 more haunting true crime stories drawn from real cases and hidden truths. Subscribe to the Veil of Secret.